What's going on, everybody? I'm Alex Hunter, this is HP Builds, and welcome back to the channel. Now today's video is all about Tony, our supercharged 4.6 liter Mustang. And a little backstory on this car. The reason it's been kind of off the channel for so long is because we have been point blank waiting on parts. So all last year, if you go back and watch other videos of when we raced this car, we had a lot of problems with heat soaking this engine with the M90 Roush blower. And I wanted to really hone in on that and try to cut that down. And I'm not gonna say I'm successful yet, but I wanna go over with you guys some things that I've ordered, some parts I've been waiting on, some sponsorships that I have in store, and you know, some things that I designed to put on this car. So let's dive into it. So starting right here in the front of this car, you can see there isn't a lot of ways for air to get across the radiator and even get across the intercooler that's down here. And I've kind of looked around in this car, started figuring out what I wanted to do. And we obviously have the tubular front crash support here. So we have air that comes in here and has to go up behind this to get to the top half of the intercooler. Well, I've got some stuff at the shop that I want to show you guys that are going to go kind of right here in this area. I designed them. They're nothing too fancy. They're just some laser cut parts, but I think they're going to work tremendously well on getting air to go across the top half of that intercooler. Now, the second thing that I wanted to tackle was our radiator stops right here. And all the way down in here, we don't have our inner fender liners. So air can come in through either grill and go right here and take a hard right or a hard left and not go through the radiator. So we're gonna take this whole front bumper off and we're going to build a nice dam on each side that kind of funnels the air into the radiator, forcing it to go through and cool our water temperatures down. And then the very last thing that's going to happen to this engine, I'm gonna wait until I get to the shop and show you guys, because that one has a little bit more to do. It's taken like 10 weeks to get here, and I'm immediately about to ship it back out, and it's gonna be gone for an additional like 4 to 5 weeks. So let's quit talking here at the house. Let's get over to where this car is gonna be wrenched on, where all the parts are sitting for it, and we'll kind of go over everything we've got over there. I promise you, you won't be disappointed, because my goal is the 408 horsepower at the wheel of this car is going to be somewhere around 450 by the time I'm done with it. All right, guys, so the very first item I'm going to show you guys now that we're over at the shop is what's inside this ginormous box. And it's the piece that I was saying I was going to wait to show you until I got over here. Let's bust this thing open and I'll show you what's inside. I don't need that. I do need that. All right, check it out. That's right, long tube headers. Heck yeah. So guys, these are JBA's long tube headers, and we're putting them on the car. But before we put them on the car, I have to actually ship these things out, because Jet Hot Coatings is sponsoring these headers, and they are going to coat these things for me in any color that I want. And I'm not really sure what color to do, but if you guys don't know who Jet Hot is, they do a ceramic flame hardened coating on headers like these. And talking to the guys, they're actually supposed to kind of hold some heat in. So I wanted to do a heat wrap on these, and I thought about it. I'm like, you know, these things are not easy to put in. So if I heat wrap them and then put them in, 2 or 3 years from now when that heat wrap's crap, I have to take these things back off and do it all over again. So I started doing some research, found out who Jet Hot was, And then I reached out to them, told them, hey, I'm looking at doing this. Do you guys want to be part of this and help sponsor this? And they were all for it. So shout out to Jet Hot Coatings. We're gonna get these things back in the box. I've got to ship them to them. And they told me it's gonna be about 4 to 5 weeks before I get them back. So it's gonna be a while before you see these things specifically go on the car. But let me show you everything else that we have for this car. It's a laundry list. Be prepared. All right, guys, well, with all these parts, we kind of have two different things going on. So over here is pretty much all supplemental parts for the headers. So we have to lift the motor up a little bit to help get these headers in, not damage them in the process of installation. So I said, hey, this is a perfect time to go ahead and throw some polyurethane motor mounts. So BMR, we ordered them, got them ready to go on the car. And then I was like, hey, we're already there. We're already gonna have a lot of stuff removed off the car. Let's go ahead and put some new plugs in the car since it's been about a year since we've done that. And then found out, put the spark plugs in on the M90, you actually have to take the snout off the blower. So we had to get new gaskets for that. But I went ahead, because they were kind of hard to find, I went ahead and ordered like 4 of those. That way when I do it in the, another year or 6 months, whenever I do them again, I already have the pieces here and I could do it pretty easily. So that's kind of this area. It's all supplemental to the headers, just doing some routine maintenance in the process, but that's what that is. So now let's transition over to here and talk about what we've got going on here. So as I told you guys, I wanted to cut up some holes in the bumper and I laser cut these. These are going to let a ton of air kind of come across the top half of the intercooler, and it's going to let that air transition through the intercooler and actually bring more air into the radiator. So in my head, it's going to reduce our temperatures of intake temperature and radiator temperature. So hopefully that will do a good amount of work. But while I was burning those, I also did some research and found out the radiator fans on the intercooler were not really, I don't want to say this, they weren't really the best thing I could have done to keep the temperatures down. So in a street car that runs red light to red light, these things are absolutely necessary, because when it comes to a stop, these things have to pull air across trying to keep everything cool. But when you're on a track like we are, doing 100 mile an hour, 130 mile an hour, in some places, and very small places are you slowing down to 40 and 50, these things are doing nothing more than restricting air. So if you just look right here at the cross section of this, you are losing the entire motor area, and all of your fans are disrupting that air as it leaves the intercooler, creating a higher pressure zone inside the intercooler that doesn't allow a lot of air to come through. So we went ahead and removed both of those already, and then we're gonna put these on, we're gonna cut those holes, and hopefully by doing this and doing those dams and kind of funneling that air into the radiator, everything should come way cooler. I'm hoping to see water temps come down substantially, intake air temps to come down substantially, and then in turn, the engine will run cooler because those will be on the car, and our cylinder head temps will be cooler. So that's the overall goal with these, and that's pretty much all the parts we've been waiting on. The headers, for instance, I ordered those like 10 weeks ago, and every time I asked about where they're at, what's the status, I kept getting the runaround. I ended up having to cancel the entire order and reorder them again through another company. So shout out to Lethal Performance for getting these things here in like 2 weeks. That was a lot better than the 8 weeks for the guys before them. Now, this kind of completes everything that we're gonna do to this car to try to help this car run a lot stronger and a lot cooler. One other thing I'm going to do is part of the dyno tune. We're gonna be swapping the car over to E85 for racing, but also give us a 93 tune. That way, hopefully the E85 helps us run even cooler, combustion temperatures. So enough about cooling. Let's get to the last thing that I'm holding from you guys that's over here on a cart. It's pretty cool, and it's gonna take a lot more hours to put in than any of this will combined. combined. All right, guys, so the last thing I have is honestly probably the biggest investment, and if you can't tell, it's just a bunch of pipes. No, not really. It's a Rhodes Racing 10-point roll cage. So if you guys go back into all the videos that I've done over the past year with Tony, you'll see that I push that car 110%. And sometimes we end up, sliding out, end up in the grass, in the dirt sometimes. And me and Ashley kind of decided that I needed to invest in a proper safety roll cage. That way, if something was to ever happen, I am protected. So we picked the Rhodes Racing 10-point cage, but as you guys can see in this photo here, there's something a little odd about those door bars. They're more of an NHRA style. And I'm going to chuck them and order 100% new material for the door bars. And we're gonna do an SECA style with 2 bars going down the doors, kind of recessed into the doors. Yeah, I've got a plan there. You'll see what I mean when we get to that point. But it's gonna be, kind of right down here on my hip, kind of low as I can safely go. That way I can get out of the car pretty easy. But yeah, in a couple weeks, this car is gonna have an awesome cage in it. So shout out to Rhodes Racing. They coat every individual piece. So as we go to install, it just cuts out a lot of the machine work that we had to do, like we did on Lucy, where we ended up putting it in the mill and holding it at crazy angles and doing all the notching we needed to do. This is already done, so it should make it a little faster. And my plan is with this one is once we get, I've got a car that I've got to do some maintenance on here at the shop. Once I get it out of the way, we're gonna bring Tony over here and we're gonna start on this. But I cannot just instantly go into the car and start welding pipe in. I've got to remove the dash, I've got to remove the heater core, I've got to do a lot of wire tucking and kind of figuring out what I'm gonna do around the dash area, because my plan is to never put the dash back in the car. But a lot of work, and as you can tell, I'm very excited to make this happen. But honestly, I ain't got much else. I mean, that was a lot of stuff covered in a short time. It's gonna be days and days worth of work, but I'm excited to do every last piece of it. So guys, if you guys made it this far in the channel, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to keep an eye out for the next few weeks. If you guys have questions about how to remove dashes, we're gonna make a video on that. If you want a video on how to install headers, we're gonna make a video on that. So in the next few weeks, keep an eye out on the channel, and Tony is getting upgraded majorly. Catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.